Do you mind if I try to share my screen just to make sure it's going to let me do that okay before everybody joins?
Joseph, go ahead while they try to turn on the camera.
Okay.
It's on.
Very good. Thank you.
Hello, Felipe, are you there?
Hey, Dario, yes, I'm here, by the way. I'm sorry. It's just that I'm on the line, but I'll come right back.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Boy, that's an interesting picture there. The world's most interesting man.
Be nice. Be nice.
No, I'm not joking, man. Dos Equis is going to come looking for you.
Okay, none of those shenanigans, Mr. Trabanco.
Basulto.
Dario.
Sorry for bother you.
You don't bother me.
Okay, you got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's fine. Tell me.
Yeah.
Right. I think Lily's using chat box now. Why isn't my chat coming up?
I have a question, Felipe. This is Victoria from the SBA.
Pero, first of all, hi.
¿Cómo anda? ¿Cómo
Yo
va
no
todo?
bien, tengo una corbata puesta.
You look handsome. I love it. I love it.
I thought it was going to be a no tie Friday.
That's
Congresswoman Shalala is joining us, so let's just try to be a little bit more, appropriate.
Ahora tengo que ponerme una chaqueta. I'll be right back.
Trabanco.
Hola, this is
Yes,
Angela
sir.
Ramos. How are you?
Try to change your name over there because you have the name of Lilian Lopez.
How am I going to have Lilian Lopez's name? Let me see.
Okay.
You can do it. Am I the host? No. Oh yes, no. I am. I can change you.
Felipe, Angela, how are you?
Angela, good. How are you?
Good. I can't turn on the video for some reason.
It's a little bit weird. It should come up. Just keep pressing it. It did it to me too. Armando, can you please speak so I can see which one of the three Lilian Lopez's is you?
Absolutely.
I got it.
It's me.
Got it.
Lilian, are you there? Lilian, are you there?
Do you have
Armando Trabanco?
Felipe, do you have Joseph?
I don't know what link I have for him. Joseph, are you there? I have Raul Martinez.
Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm a Lilian Lopez as well.
Lilian, change him the name, please.
I'm doing it. I have it. I have the host, Dario. Hold on, folks. Give me 1 second. Joseph, can you please speak for me now?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Hold on, I do.
Okay.
All right. Yes, man. The video isn't working, but it says the host has stopped it. I have not stopped videos. Hold on 1 second, folks.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I'm gonna mute everybody for a second so I can finish a couple things, and then I can go to addressing the needs one by one. Joseph, I need to make sure I spell your last name correctly.
S-H-U.
Joseph.
F.
Hold on, I'm spelling your first name incorrectly. Joseph, okay. S-H.
I cannot do anything.
S-H.
U-F-O. Shuford. Shuford.
Got it.
No hables ahora porque está saliendo.
Está bien, Dariel.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let me do all this. Participants. Okay, attendees, panelists. Close up. Participants. All right, I am. There's something wrong with the video access. Can't hold on. Hold the door. Video settings. No, that's only mine. That's only for my video. Give me 1 second. Participants, invite, they're all there. And more. Forbid record, rename, hold, remove. Doesn't let me get into the video. Dariel, it's not letting me manipulate the video. Let me see something else here.
I know
Raise
how.
hand. Allow panelists to rename themselves, unmute themselves. Yes, allow panelists to unmute themselves. Espérate. I already changed that. Raise hand, follow and host. Play, enter, exit, lock, webinar. Allow panelists to start video. You should be able to start videos now, folks.
Yeah.
Are we starting?
There we
Yes,
go. I
there
see
we go.
Joseph.
Okay, well, yeah. Yeah, but
Can
look,
you see me?
Joseph looks young and how now I look like an old man, and I put on a tie. This gray hair is too much.
That's funny.
I tell you, Raul, how are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
I'm checking in on the congresswoman now. She's about to.
Yeah, it's not a problem. We're good. Victoria, you look fabulous. Look at you with your virtual background. That's, it's so cool. Angela, todo bien? Angela, I
Hola,
actually
todo bien,
renamed
ahora
you.
sí.
I actually named
Joseph.
I renamed you Joseph, so let me rename Hugh. It's easier to do now when I see him. Angela Ramos. That's done. And Joseph, I'm coming over to you. Oh, you are named as well. I named you.
Yeah, I named yes, sir.
Maybe she's named herself there. I renamed that. Victoria's named correctly. Raul is there. All righty. We're good. We have 86 participants online so far. And if not mistaken, Dariel, they can hear us and see us already because I've already experienced that.
It happens.
Actually, if not mistaken, Mr. T, we were on that same webinar together when Roland Sanchez Medina and I decided to show that we were actually dressed professionally and in shorts.
I remember.
Yeah, that was a riot. It's the new normal, man. It's a new piece. All right. Lilium, thank you. I got your chat. That's great. Well, everybody is looking fabulous. Let me go ahead and oh, here we go.
So just so you guys know, so the congresswoman's getting on now.
problem.
She's just finished votes. And then there'll be another series of votes. So depending on when they call it, she'll have to jump back off.
No problem. She can share that with us. I think that's kind of exciting news that we get to be a part of borrowing her time in between votes. And Lily, I put the phone down. I know we're texting, but because I have 6 different screens there. It's okay, Lily. I'll unmute you in a little bit. Sorry. Word. Hold on. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Here it is. Okay. Good. So everybody is showing. Got it. Oh my God. Okay. Lily, does Roland have a, I know you're texting, does Roland have a link to dial in as a participant, or he dialed in through the regular mute? Oh, none of you can unmute. Okay, let me get that ready too. Give me 1 second.
I sent him the speaker's link this morning.
Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, make sure that he's signing on through that one, because that's what I noticed. Allow panelists to unmute themselves. You are now all allowed to unmute yourself. Joseph, if you can, I know you sent the note in
Yes,
too.
sir.
Lily, okay, yeah, I just saw you all came off from mute. Perfect.
Basulto, the problem is that the system, Zoom system is too slow right now for some reason.
It's okay.
Hello.
We've got 129 participants on so far. For all the participants that can hear us, we're actually going to give it a couple more minutes. Congresswoman Shalala is actually wrapping up a vote, and
He's here.
It just came on.
there we are. I didn't have my full gallery open. Congresswoman, how are you?
I just ran over and voted, and then I have to vote again, but hopefully I can be on for most of the.
Running around the Capitol today, serving. That's outstanding. Well, welcome. Good. So we have everybody here. We're going to go ahead and begin with our presentation today. Lily Lopez, I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so very much. I know we're still getting calls, and a lot of people calling too because they're very interested in the subject matter that we're dealing with today. And I know Anielka is getting more and more calls, and we have about 220 people that are going to be joining us, and even more. But anyway, thank you so much, and welcome to the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's webinar, PPP loans and how to be forgiven. I'm Lily Lopez, as Felipe just said. I'm the president of the organization. I'm very happy to be with all of you. So happy to see Congresswoman Shalala. We haven't seen you since our event in November at the Ritz-Carlton. And I'm trying to read my notes here to thank everybody. I don't want to leave anybody out. But I do want to thank Univision, and Univision have been doing a great job. And Angela, you want to say a few words? We've been getting tons of calls because of all the good work that you've been doing to help us promote this event.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you for organizing this and going through the extra effort and the extra mile of making sure that small businesses that are affected and are suffering right now have all of this information that's so crucial for their sustainability. And I want to thank all of the sponsors, all of the participants, everyone who's, really trying to get the information out there. Congresswoman Dana Shalala, Victoria Guerrero, the Small Business Administration, Felipe Basulto for being at the helm of this whole effort, along with Lilium and all the other sponsors. This is information that's really going to hopefully get all our business back on track and get people employed. So that's the most important thing. Thank you so much, and we hope to continue supporting.
Thank you, Angela. And this is actually the second PPP webinar that we are doing. The first one we had Senator Marco Rubio. And so we're very happy that we had him. And now we have Congresswoman Shalala. We also have Vicky. Where's Vicky? Victoria Guerrero. Thank you so very much for being with us today. And thank you, Synovus, for being the presenting sponsor of this webinar. And then I know we'll hear from you later. I know that Roland was going to be here somewhere, but I don't see him.
He is not, Lily, he's not in the panelist room, and I also searched the attendees room. He is not linked in, or he's not identified.
Okay, so anyway, and I want to thank also Ponemos, Diario Las Americas, and all of those who are supporting us today. And now it's my great pleasure to present this to our actually immediate past chair, Felipe Basulto. He turned over the helm yesterday to Roland Sanchez Medina, who's our new chairman of the board. So Felipe, thank you so much for accepting to moderate this panel discussion today. And thank you also very much for being here with us. We have a lot of people now, 144. I know we have like 220 people coming in and joining us. So thank you. Thanks.
No problem. Thank you all very much. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we start. It's probably going to be more effective if we all mute ourselves, unless you are called on to speak. It just makes it easier in case of any background noise. For example, my dog Milo likes to make appearances. So if you see a little bull terrier who pops his head up here, he apparently thinks that all these webinars are just for him. But I'll try to mute myself as well. So welcome and thank you. As Lily shared, we're talking about forgiveness for PPP loans. So I'm very happy to have distinguished panelists today. And I'm going to give a brief introduction for people who, well, first introduction doesn't really need an introduction, but let's extend that courtesy regardless, because it's critical. Our very own Congresswoman Dana Shalala. And she's proud to serve Florida's 27th district as an advocate for women's rights, civil rights, increased access to healthcare, better education and public schools, obviously serving as the head of the University of Miami for a long time, and clean and sustainable environment. The longest serving Secretary of Health and Human Services in U.S. history. And she returns to Washington now as a representative for the 27th District, which includes the city of Miami and surrounding municipalities in Miami-Dade County. I know there's a lot more to your bio, Congresswoman, but thank you for always being supportive of our chamber. And thank you so much for joining us here. And as you all may know, and she clearly stated, we might have exits of the Congresswoman at certain times to go for a vote. All respected. We're good. Thank you for your time today. I think we'll appreciate that. You're doing the service that you were elected to do. In addition to that, I'd like to introduce Victoria Guerrero, who also has spent some time with us. She's the District Director for the Small Business Administration. And Victoria, gracias. Thank you so much for all that you've done with us. Her leadership and business expert, over 20 years and leading and managing, transforming both private sector corporations and public sector entities. Great for leading our SBA here. Her transformational leadership and business management skills have the ability to change business cultures and has allowed her the opportunity to positively impact businesses and communities. And to say the least, you've been extremely busy as of late. She is a South Florida native and prior to small business, and she was a small business owner herself, and which is always great because she's got that entrepreneurial spirit and definitely understands the importance of taking care of her clients, which by the way, were from all the way from construction to real estate to media. And her passion has always been helping small business grow. So welcome and thank you for being here. I'm very excited today because, you know, we see Armando Trabanco here and, you know, it's just getting a little old that our very own Armando, who's an he's in a past chair of the South Florida Hispanic Chamber. But I love the fact that Armando engaged one of his co-workers at Synovus, which is an outstanding financial institution, because he is a specialist. Let me go ahead and introduce Joseph Shuford. Originally from Dalton, Georgia, and attended college in Statesboro, Georgia at Georgia Southern University. Received his undergrad degree in accounting and completed master's in 2017. 18 years with Synovus. Look at you, man. That's awesome. He's worn many hats. And by the way, I think this is outstanding because I, too, as a banker, can appreciate your career growth here. He's been everything from a teller, loan processor, treasury, sales, commercial lending, but now he is the director of government guaranteed lending for the company, which is a critical role and has been, especially during this time. He's got about 40 members on his team, and they handle all different types of SBA loans. Lives in Statesboro with his wife of 17 years and 2 children, and you have 3 dogs?
Yes, sir.
Fun. Good times. Good times, sir. And you still look young and happy and healthy with all that responsibility. So it's great to have all of you here today. Thank you again for joining us. I do want to again jump right into this and go a little bit around what we want to accomplish today. And it really is going to be about our PPP. But before we start, I need a quick start question. We need to break the ice before we start this out here because everybody's got a COVID or coronavirus, a shelter at home story. You need to tell me either what you're binge watching, what retail online therapy shopping do you regret the most, and or what really cool book or thing or hobby have you developed? I will tell you, I have an air fryer that I purchased. Now, air fryers have varying prices, but mine is a 9-in-1. Mine is a pressure cooker. It does all this. By the way, it takes up half my kitchen counter, and I don't even have the box to return that. But that is my regret for COVID so far. But I will tell you, the air fryer is amazing. So it's a half and half. Congresswoman, what about yours? You're on mute, by the way, so you have to unmute when you go to respond.
I just adopted a rescue dog.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I've heard that there's been a huge surge in pet adoption.
Yeah, and I've been working with Paws for You for years, and which is in South Florida, obviously. Yeah. And this dog, little tiny little funny little dog, was found wandering around in Coconut Grove, and no one could catch him. And then when Strata opened, very good Italian restaurant.
Yes, love Strata.
He ran into Strata, and the owner took him home and called the rescue group. And so I'm picking him up next Friday, a week from today, because he had to be fixed and other things. And they said, well, what are you going to name him? Because he didn't have a name. I said, he has to have an Italian name. So I'm going to call him Fauci after Tony Fauci. He's my COVID-19 dog.
Oh my God, that's awesome. You'll have to share.
Introduce him to everyone on my Twitter account.
You'll have to share pics on your Twitter account. That's fantastic, Congresswoman. Thank you so much. Victoria, what's your COVID story? And you're on mute, by the way. So
I was just looking here because I do not own a television set.
Whoa.
No TV. I do everything through my phone. So I've been watching here and there. I'm a history buff. So I've watched some series here of Queen Victoria, of Peter the Great. I'm also a sci-fi buff, so I've been watching a series of Humans all through my Prime channels here. And there's another series called Spirited. So everything I do is through my phone. I do not own a television set. This is my livelihood.
That, first of all, I used to do that too, and then I had to purchase these. And I didn't used to do that, but I can't believe that you can do. I cannot watch anything on my phone because after, not even with my glasses on, can I see.
Yeah.
So how do you watch Univision then?
I watch it on my big screen. Unlike Victoria, I have a TV. Just saying. I just have a big air fryer.
I do have my app, so I live stream a lot.
Live stream, that's good.
That's funny. That's funny. Mr. Shuford, talk to us. In Georgia, what's going on there? What's your COVID story?
My COVID story since about March the 27th has been reading about 20 different interim final rules from the SBA. So we have been head down in PPP loans, but outside of that, reading a book that's pretty neat. I received it from my father, but it was his grandfather's, and it was a biography on General Eisenhower written in 1944, and it had great grandfather's handwriting throughout it, and it's just neat to read it while the war was still going on, to read about General Eisenhower. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Okay, well, by the way, that's a treasure because that's obviously a former family heirloom. Very cool about that. I would love to get into it with everybody, but for time, we're going to go ahead and move directly into the panelists. Although Armando, when you speak at the end, I'm going to ask you those questions. Congresswoman Shalala, can you please share with us? I think we want to first take a look back. You know, being a part of the passing the CARES Act originally, what was the original intent of PPP, and just give us a brief background on the process Congress took to review, amend, and pass the law, just to give us the process and the journey you all took to that. And I do want to, in addition, elaborate on the impacts that you've heard from this stimulus package to our economy in the time that we've been through already. You're on mute, by the way. I'm sorry. I unmute. Yeah. There you go.
I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't want to take too long because you've got some very distinguished panelists. Look, here's what I've said on the floor and to my colleagues. My district and South Florida has been devastated by COVID-19. We've had to close almost every business. And if you think about South Florida, we're totally dependent on crowds. Miami Beach has about 90,000 residents and it had 10 million visitors. That gives you just a feel. You can't maintain restaurants or hotels or the small businesses, so that we have to do some dramatic things. And in the first two CARES Acts, that's exactly what we did. First, we looked at existing platforms, the Small Business Administration, or PPE. And it turned out that a lot of the banks had relationships with larger entities that fit under the PPP, but not with the really small businesses. So we had to make some adjustments. And there still is money available. I want to make that clear to everybody. So the first effort we made was to try to help small businesses to maintain their payroll and their overhead. The second thing we did was to look at unemployment and actually beef it up. In Florida, you would get a maximum of $275 a week. We added $600 on top of that, at least. But, you know, no one thought through. I personally did not know that our unemployment system was a legacy system, and it was designed to say no, not to say yes. And that you actually had to do a workaround to get money out to people. We're still having trouble getting money out to people because it was designed that way. I mean, we never made the kind of investment. The same thing sort of happened with small business. We were never ready for these huge amounts of money that we were putting in, but we've adjusted. It's taken a long time, but all of our efforts have been about employment. And the Speaker has appointed me as the representative of the House of Representatives, the majority, on this oversight committee. And 2 days ago, I had my 3 colleagues and I had a direct in-person discussion with the Secretary of the Treasury and with the head of the Fed, because we have lots of not-for-profits that have more than 500 people. And I was emphasizing to them that the medium-sized businesses, the small not-for-profits, we haven't done much for them. And even though they may be eligible for some of these low interest loans, we've got a lot of work to do, because people really need these grant programs, and Miami and South Florida are going to need them for a long period of time. But as I said to both the secretary and to the chairman of the Fed, I'm focused on employment. I'm focused on trying to help these businesses maintain their employment and also to pay their overhead, because many of them have very high rents. Doesn't do much good to give them money for their employees if we aren't helping them with their rents and the other kinds of things that they have to pay. So that's where I've been focused like a laser. We've done some of the work. I think we've got a lot more to do. This is going to take a longer period of time. My district also includes the ports.
Oh,
So
wow.
that
Right.
business has gone down as well. And I represent part of the airport. So I've been keeping an eye on the airlines as well, which will get some help over a period of time. But what about all those businesses out at the airport? What about the people that clean the buildings that are subcontractors? So you can see what my focus is with my father was a small businessman. I used to work in a small grocery store, so I got some sense of what people are facing, but it's, that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on. Trying to make people whole while we get through this pandemic.
Oh, I love your focus on the fact that you're looking to create the jobs and the objectives, not just to carry people. I mean, we want to help carry people through, but objectively is to get their businesses back and the engine going. You know, it's interesting what you said about the port. We've actually met with the port and airport directors on another webinar, and Congresswoman, people don't always realize it goes way beyond just the governmental function. It's all and there's an enormous amount of small businesses that depend on services from the port.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, perfect. And just a couple things that I'm going to address because I'm noticing they're coming along. And I'm sorry for some of you. Muchas personas están preguntando sobre que si vamos a nosotros poder comunicar en español. Tenemos 2 de los participantes que hablan o a lo mejor entienden, así que no se preocupe, yo trataré de traducir ciertos comentarios en relación a lo que hemos hablado y discutido. Lo primero que hemos hablado sobre que Donna Shalala estaba hablando específicamente del propósito del PPP y estaba hablando de la necesidad de tratar de ayudar a los negociantes con sus nóminas de los empleados y también para poder cubrir ciertos gastos que tienen, gastos fijos como la renta o los préstamos para poder mantener los locales en donde están llevando sus negocios. So I will do my best, haré mi esfuerzo to translate, a traducir todo lo que puedo en ciertos momentos, porque algunos que probablemente no van a ser traducidos. Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Congresswoman. I'll come back with more questions.
There really are some nuances here. We extended the number of weeks, and obviously where our HEROES bill, which is not moving in the Senate, would extend unemployment until the beginning of next year. So we're trying to, as businesses tell us more, we're trying to make adjustments. That's the only point I really need to make.
Excellent. No, thank you, and that's a great point to make. And if not mistaken, even the SBA. So I'm gonna switch over to Victoria in a second because I'm the market president for TD Bank, and in my function, I know that we're waiting on some SBA regulations on how we're going to process forgiveness. So we haven't reopened our portal just yet. But I digress. We'll keep on to the question that we had in mind here, Victoria. And for the panelists, in addition, if you don't mind peeking into the Q&A box or the chat box, and sometimes you can answer questions directly there because there's some one-off questions, even though we will be addressing many of the questions that people are already asking at this time. So Perfect. And Victoria, so the stimulus package, the SBA has done this outstanding job of partnering with banks, and you have the disaster loan as well that you've been working through. Have you had any specific impacts, or you want to share what this has meant for businesses? I'm sure you've heard back from businesses. And then an initial onset concerns, just like Congresswoman said, they extended the period of tracking for payment of employees. Any initial concerns regarding the forgiveness portion?
Yes. So a few things that I want to do here. I do want to share some numbers just to put our tiny little state of Florida in perspective with all these other giant states like California and Texas.
Tiny.
Just let me share with you where we are as far as PPP numbers and EIDL numbers. For our PPP numbers, the state of Florida is 4th, with the highest number of PPP approved loans and dollars that have been approved for small businesses here in the state of Florida. First is California, second is Texas, third is New York, and Florida is 4th. Our Florida numbers we have approved 326,000 applications. This is as of March 16th, so the numbers I'm sure have gone up. And as of March 16th, that translates to about $30.4 billion that have been allocated to small businesses in the state of Florida. And if you kind of compare the small state of Florida to the Californias and the Texas, you'll see that we've been very aggressive with our informing our small businesses and getting them to apply, and our small businesses have been very assertive in getting their application in. In regards to our EIDL loan, which is our economic disaster loan, the state of Florida is 3rd in place with about 22,000 approved applications. This is as of May 17th, and that translates to about $1.9 billion. And again, California is 1st in place, with Texas 2nd, and Florida is 3rd. So I like to share these numbers just to share that, again, although Florida is a small state compared to the Californias and the Texas, because of all of the hard work of our congressional, individuals and our chambers and our resource partners, we've been able to get the word out, without the help of our media partners. We haven't been able, we wouldn't have been able to get the word out to our small businesses as quickly as we did. So again, thank you to everyone who has assisted us in that. I'm very, very, grateful for that. So to your second question in regards to our small businesses, the South Florida SBA office, we do have a YouTube channel that has success stories on the PPP loans. So you can see how the utilization of these loans have been able to assist these small businesses in going through this coronavirus. Some of them even had to hire more people during this process, because although this is a global pandemic, sometimes there's that saying, chaos breeds creativity. And a lot of our small business owners have had to get creative and think outside of their normal scope of work to be able to continue operating and servicing their customers and their clients. Because of this, and because of the PPP loans, a lot of our small businesses, the ones that you'll see on our YouTube channel, they've actually hired more individuals to help them through this process. So, I do want to state for folks, if you have not applied, funding is still available. You can certainly still apply, both for the PPP loan and for the EIDL loan. Remember, as Congresswoman mentioned, the PPP loan is meant to keep people employed. The EIDL loan is more of your long-term solution. It's a traditional loan. You do get an advance with that. That does not need to be repaid back. It's $1,000 per W-2 employee, up to $10,000. And the rest is the traditional EIDL loan, which is our disaster loan. It's a 3.75% loan at a repayment rate of up to 30 years. So again, if you haven't applied for these, I highly suggest that you do, because the funding is still available.
By the way, there's a question floating right now that I think people confuse PPP and EIDL, and whether they are
what they are.
They cancel each other out in any way, shape, or form. I just want you to address that really quickly.
So thank you so much for that, Felipe. Yeah. So you can absolutely apply for both. They do not cancel one. Right. The PPP is a specialized program that Congress came up with because of this global pandemic that we've had. And again, it is meant for you to keep your employees on payroll. The funding for that program, you have to go to your lender to be able to apply. And you can go to any lender. If your lender is no longer accepting applications, you can go to others. There's no application fee, and there's no penalty for that. And if you use your funding, a minimum of 60% of the funds for payroll purposes, and the rest 40% for expenses, business expenses, as long as you follow the rules and you document everything properly, you can be eligible to have that loan completely forgiven. So it's a very nice program to have. Deadline to apply is June 30th, which is 4 days away. And the other loan is our traditional disaster loan. This is the loan that we offer anytime there's a hurricane that hits. If you're out in the West Coast and there's an earthquake, it's a traditional loan. It's called Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It's EIDL. We call it EIDL. For this one, you have to go to sba.gov/disaster, and you apply straight into the system. sba.gov/disaster. This is your long-term solution. So you can utilize this, and there's a repayment rate of up to 38 years.
And Joseph Shuford is the man as he is answering questions that are coming through here.
I would just add, if you don't mind, Felipe,
Sure.
Victoria's comment there. I think it's very, very important that small businesses understand that they can get both.
Yeah.
I'm a small business owner as well as a banker, and we applied for both the PPP and the EIDL, and we are very hard hit here in our community. And from a long-term working capital needs perspective, it is very much a fantastic option for the small businesses, and highly recommend. If you haven't looked into it, to please do.
Right. And I know the question came on about investing in capital equipment. I think you addressed that one because I saw it come off the chat box.
Yes, sir, I did. It's and Victoria can correct me if I'm wrong in this answer, but the EIDL loan proceeds are to be used for working capital proceeds only, shouldn't be used for any fixed asset purchases.
Right. Yeah. I think and it's outlined very much in the note once you get it. I'm going to jump in for 1 second real quick. Para la persona que hemos estado comunicando a través de ciertas cosas, la señora Victoria y el señor Joseph estaban explicando sobre los préstamos que existían en relación a lo que es el PPP, que era específicamente para las nóminas, como hemos hablado, y ciertos gastos, y también el préstamo del SBA, que es directo a través del SBA, que es el EIDL, para fondos para ayudar a los negocios. Y estos fondos siempre existen cuando desgraciadamente han habido huracanes o otras situaciones acá, pero puede tener ambos préstamos y los dos tienen sus necesidades que se puede utilizar. Perfect. Thank you very much, Victoria. Is there anything else that you wanted to add onto that?
No, just I want to encourage folks, if you haven't applied, the money is there. It is for you, our small businesses. So I encourage you to apply for both. Remember, you can apply for both, and one has nothing to do with the other. So I encourage that. Thank you so much.
And disaster loans are repaid. So it's because they want to know if those are forgiveness. No, the disaster loan is repaid. It is amortized over a very long period of time at a low interest rate. You will find those details in the website because you need to see what works for you specifically. Whereas the PPP does have the forgiveness component if you qualify and you comply with the requirements. El préstamo sobre el EIDL del SBA sí es un préstamo y hay que pagarlo con sus intereses que son bien bajos. Y lo que es el PPP, eso tiene una clave de perdón, pero tiene que calificar para que te perdonen el préstamo. Perfect. That's good stuff. Now, let me ask you a question, Victoria. I spoke with Althea out of your office, and I sent her a success story of what it's been publicized, so I'm not violating anything here. And I'm sorry to jump in when Synovus is sponsoring this. We actually helped out a small business owner here locally. I think everybody knows them. She makes really tiny cupcakes, and they're actually crack. And they're not, by the way. I'm sorry. I know we're on a webinar. They're Misha's cupcakes on there, and she actually had a great testimony, and I think she was willing to jump on to share that with you guys. And Congresswoman, that's a success story to take back to Congress and say
Absolutely.
this. I mean, a female-owned business that she started just baking really, really good cupcakes out of her house for her kids, and has 5 different locations now. And she said that this was instrumental in helping her.
I've been collecting those stories. There's a woman that owns a bus, a school bus, and another success story, but I've been collecting those stories. I'd like to make one point, and that is everybody's got to think of this as their money. For years, these businesses have been paying taxes to Washington. My job is to bring the tax money back to them. And in this case, it's in these small business programs and unemployment. So no one should be shy about applying. The deadline on PPP is June 30th. So, and there's still money there, but everybody should think of this as their money and their family members' money that we're simply bringing back to South Florida. That's the way I think about it.
We're going to say that one in Spanish. Lo que la congresista estaba diciendo es que todos los dueños de su pequeño negocio que tienen que pensar de la forma que ese es su dinero que tiene el gobierno, porque lo han pagado a través de impuestos, a través de muchos años, no solo ustedes, pero hasta sus familiares y conocidos. Y la realidad que ella misma declaró que su responsabilidad es traer esos fondos de impuestos de vuelta a ustedes. Y para aclarar, hasta el 30 de junio tienen abierto para poder tratar de buscar los fondos del gobierno. Thank you, Congresswoman. That was outstanding. Great comment to add there. Let's run into forgiveness, which I think this is critical. And Joseph, I'm going to run to you because the SBA and our government actually leaned heavily on our financial institutions to actually facilitate the PPP process, which, by the way, we just wanted to thank the Congresswoman and the SBA for this incredible journey that the bankers have been on fulfilling PPP loans. I really do want to let you know, it was day and night. I know in Synovus, Armando and I have had various conversations about our teams and deploying resources throughout our entire institutions, people who weren't doing loans, just to help and assist. Everybody has jumped in for the greater good of our small business owners. But with that said, Joseph, take us through, how do I forgive? How do I get my loan forgiven?
Well, first of all,
Joseph, before you start, I'm going to run vote. I'm going to run and vote, and I'll come back.
We'll see you when you get back. Good luck with your vote. Thank you, Congresswoman.
So yeah, it has been quite a journey, and we have just much like Felipe, it was 24/7. I mean, we were going around the clock there for a few days, and we have a fantastic team. And it was, I mentioned this on a call that we had with the state of Georgia, that I don't know that I've ever been involved with something in the banking industry where the entire banking industry came together to try to assist small businesses. It's been really spectacular to experience. I was going to acknowledge the Congresswoman as she's leaving, but she mentioned something that I was going to touch on, which is the SBA is in a very difficult position to roll out legislation and to roll out guidance on something that was needed in such a short time period. So the gentlemen and ladies at the SBA that are making the policy decisions and sending the updates to us and how we need to implement this program and the forgiveness, they take something that she said very seriously, which is protecting the taxpayer dollars. If you've ever had a conversation with someone from the administration, if you want to know why is this forgiveness process so difficult or why is this so difficult, it's because they take the protection of the taxpayer dollars very, very seriously throughout not only the PPP, but the 7A programs as well. And so that's, as we're talking about forgiveness, just something to keep in mind. This isn't meant to be a very arduous process. They're trying to make it as easy for us as we can, and we are all in this together. So the gentlemen that are working on that are working very, very hard in DC and are really working with the banks to try to make this as easy as we can for our customers. I am going to begin with talking about the loan forgiveness process. And so the process itself, you see I have an asterisk. Before I go any further, I want to just point out that this is all based on revisions to the loan forgiveness interim final rule and SBA loan revision procedures in that IFR that came out Monday. We fully expect that there will be additional rules and guidance that come out that will change possibly some of what I'm going to say today. So I'm going to begin with that caveat that there will be additional rules that will come out. Since this rule came out on the 22nd, we've had 3 more rules, or 2 or 3 more rules that have come out. And so it is a very fluid situation. step one for you and your small business, you need to determine what your covered period is going to be. So when the legislation initially came out, you had an 8-week period and a 24-week period was what came out with the Flex Act. So when you are thinking about how do I need to plan on what my covered period needs to be, that's the first step in the process. Am I going to do it over 8 weeks or 24 weeks? When you think about the 24-week period, and this question came up in the chat of, well, what if I run out by week 13? If I spend my money, all the money that I receive from my loan proceeds by week 13, do I have to wait 24 weeks before I can apply for forgiveness? Well, the IFR that came out on the 22nd said that a borrower may submit a loan forgiveness application anytime on or before the maturity date of the loan, including before the end of the covered period if the borrower has used all of the loan proceeds for which they are requesting forgiveness. So if you elect the 24-week period, but by week 13 you have spent all of your money, as soon as your financial institution opens up their forgiveness portal, you can apply. I say as soon as they open up their forgiveness portal. The SBA, some financial institutions are really slowly going to roll out their forgiveness portal because the SBA has communicated on some calls this week that they are in the coming weeks going to roll out how banks must submit that forgiveness application. So we as an industry right now, at TD, at Synovus, at all the banks, do not know how we are going to go about submitting those applications to the SBA quite yet. So if you're wondering why your bank hasn't opened up their portal, that's why. We're still trying to determine that. You have some other considerations that come into play with the 8-week and the 24-week. You have an alternative pay period. So I'll use this week, for example. Today's a Friday. You received your loan proceeds on Monday. So your cover period, if you were to select 8 or 24 weeks, would have started on Monday. But that didn't really align with your payroll schedule because you don't pay anybody on Monday, you pay everybody on Friday. And so you can select the alternative pay period or alternative period, which means that you can begin your 8-week clock ticking, if you will, with today and not when you receive those funds on Monday. This provided more flexibility for small business owners to be able to better align their covered period with when the expenses were going out. The 10-month rule that I put in here is just kind of a heads up for everybody that if you do not apply for loan forgiveness within 10 months after the last day of your covered period, or if the SBA determines that the loan was ineligible for forgiveness, the PPP loan is no longer deferred and the borrower must begin paying principal and interest. So I think the SBA put this in place to say, you know what, we're not going to let you defer this on forever. At some point, you're going to need to begin your application for forgiveness. We've received communications from several customers that have said, you know, I'm going to wait to the very last minute. My CPA is telling me I need to, or I'm being advised that I need to do that. And there is a little bit of risk with that. The SBA fully expects that you're going to apply for forgiveness of this loan, and you need to understand what that timeline is, but you cannot go beyond 10 months beyond the end of your cover period. And then also your cover period must end by December the 31st, currently. I say currently because there could be more rules that come out that we don't know about yet that could change that. The 60-40 rule was the 75-25. So when most of you applied for your PPP loan, you did so under the premise that your loan must have 75% of the proceeds used for payroll. The SBA changed that to 60% and 40%, to where 60% must be used for payroll, 40% can be used for your other expenses that I'll get into in a moment. So I want to just walk through the application of that real quick. This is actually in the interim final rule that came out this week. So for example, if a borrower received a loan for $100,000 and during the covered period, the borrower only spent $54,000 of its loan on payroll costs. So 60% of 100,000 would be 60,000, but they only spent 54,000. So they spent 90% of what they are supposed to spend on payroll. Well, the maximum amount of loan forgiveness that borrower will receive will be $90,000 or 90% of the $100,000 loan that they receive. So in this case, if it's a $100,000 loan, they did $54,000 in payroll. The remaining amount that could be forgiven based on expenses for mortgage interest and some of these other expenses I'll get into would cap out at $90,000. So that rule is in the IFR. You may need to read through it a couple of times to take a look at it, but it's on page 10 of that if you were to look it up on the SBA's website. So the second step, once you determine your cover period and the other items that you need to consider is you need to gather all your documentation to complete the forgiveness application, the Schedule A worksheet, and Schedule A. That includes all your eligible payroll costs that you need to be able to document, interest payments on your business mortgage obligations, and rent and lease payments, and business utility payments. Gather all that supporting documentation, complete the Schedule A worksheet, and Schedule A and the forgiveness application. Once you complete those items, I've underlined and put in italics the Schedule A worksheet. It is very important that you go through the process of completing that Schedule A worksheet. The reason being, the SBA at any time could come back and say, we want to review your file. We want to review your loan for forgiveness application. And part of the rules state that if your file is picked up for review, you must provide the Schedule A worksheet. So while it's not a requirement for submission for forgiveness of your loan, if by happenstance your loan is picked up for review, it is required that you provide it at that time. And it's going to help you complete the Schedule A. So I would highly recommend, though it's not required for you to complete that, and you retain a copy of that for 6 years. That's statutory. The SBA has 6 years that they may be able to come and review your loan. So you would need to maintain all of this for up to 6 years. Read the certifications. Know what you're signing and initialing on those documents. You have the full application and the EZ application. The EZ form came out with the new Flexibility Act and over the last couple of weeks. And the only thing that's easy about it is they took some of the parameters around how to calculate some of the items around FTEs or full-time equivalent employees and wrap that into some certifications that you need to sign off on and initial. So just as you're going through and initialing those documents, I would just please pay attention to that and know what you're initialing and know what you're signing to make sure you utilize the right form. And then I put document, document, document. Document your files. Hold on to that information for 6 years. As I mentioned, they could come back and say, we want to take a look at this a little bit deeper dive. The timeline. So the lender has 60 days from the receipt of your completed application to issue a decision to the SBA. The SBA will remit the forgiveness application to them plus any interest accrued within 90 days. So the lender, once you get us a complete application, it's not once we start the process, but once you have the completed application to us, we will, once we're informed by the SBA, submit the application to them and they have 90 days to review. So I want to walk through a timeline with you. Let's say you chose the 8-week cover period. We're going to just make an assumption that most folks receive their monies in early to mid-April. And so we're going to just assume that in this test case here that our loan originated April the 15th. That means you received your monies on April the 15th. Your covered period would end 56 days later on June the 10th. So you will have spent all of your money by then and you are ready to begin the forgiveness process 2 weeks ago. Well, the problem is, we are not ready as an institution or as an industry to accept that forgiveness quite yet. So once, I'm just going to say mid-July, the application portals will become available to submit for forgiveness. And I'm just going to make an assumption it takes a week for you to complete that application, make sure everything's correct. Should not take that long, but just to make sure that if you haven't started by the time you begin your forgiveness process and to complete that online submission, it's going to take you some time to gather that information. So I would encourage you right now to go ahead and be gathering that information. The bank has 60 days to review this information. So it will not be until the mid-September before we will be able to submit something, or we have up until mid-September as an industry, or be 60 days from the time you completed it, to send it to the SBA. And during that time, we are tasked with a few things. You're like, well, what in the world is a bank doing sitting on it for 60 days? Well, just a little bit of insight. We have to confirm the receipt of all of your certifications on those forms that I was talking about. We have to confirm receipt of the documentation that you've submitted, and that the calculations on your application form are correct. And so while we just have to confirm receipt of that, and that doesn't sound like that would take that long, you're correct. But when you process tens of thousands of these,
Everyone else is, sorry
That's
about
okay.
that, Joseph. Yep.
Yes.
No, it's okay. No, just really quick. I see that there's questions in there. I'm sorry, just take that. Victoria, are you addressing questions that are coming through the queue? Oh, okay, because I know Joseph was, sorry, and I see that they're clearing. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank
Yo
you.
sé que están contestando ciertas preguntas ahí. Sorry to jump in, Joseph. Just wanted to
That's
make sure,
fine.
because I see the Q&A are going through there. Thank you. Gracias.
So we are required to verify and confirm the information that you send in. During the 90 days that it's with the SBA, we're talking mid-December by the time that the SBA has to render the decision. So what are they doing for 90 days? And you have to remember there are 4.7 million of these loans originated so far across the country. So the SBA is looking at this. They're making sure that at the time of application and the rules or guidance that were available at the time that you applied for the loan, that your loan is eligible for forgiveness. And that's going to take some time. We fully expect that could take weeks for the SBA, just with the backlog, and to be able to process those. So we're talking about mid-December on an 8-week cover period of being able to render a decision on your loan. It is the lender's responsibility to communicate back to you, the customer, of the decision on the forgiveness from the SBA. It does not come from the SBA at all. If you were to have a 24-week period, I kind of went through this quick, but you can see it would be the end of your covered period would be the end of September. You submit that form, the bank submits it to the SBA by December the 5th. It could be March the 5th of 2021 before your loan forgiveness decision is made. Again, this is based on you submitting for forgiveness within a week after the end of your cover period. But you can see how the length of time that we are fully expecting that this could take for you to request forgiveness. We had a question that came in, and I was going to address it right on. There's someone typed a question in the Q&A, or there's some rumors that loans under $150,000 will just be a blanket forgiveness amount. While this is possible, it is being discussed, that's tricky and it's challenging because part of the CARES Act, it's statutory that documentation be provided to tell for us to determine forgiveness. And so that means that it would be a statutory, a change to the statute, which Congresswoman, I see you join us again. Thank you for joining us again. And maybe you, and I may put you on the spot and I apologize, but just from the question that we received was $150,000 and under. There's some talk about those being just a blanket forgiveness amount, and that it is a part of the statute of the CARES Act that we have to receive documentation for forgiveness, and that would be a statutory change to that piece of legislation to not require documentation on those loans. And I don't know if I explained that correctly or not. So I'll let you correct me in front of 150 of my new best friends if I did it. Yeah, and you're on mute, Congresswoman. And while she's getting off mute, I will mention one other thing. Of the money that's still available within the program was mentioned earlier. There's still about $133 billion available within the program, and so there's plenty of money available still. And with the the open period to apply, though, ending next week. So, Congresswoman, I see you're off mute now.
Yeah, the question, I think you're accurate. We ought to make this as easy as possible. And I'm for simplification and for easy application. So we need to make some other adjustments as well, but clearly there are some things that we can do to make life easier for businesses that are so stressed.
Good deal. So this is I'm going to leave this up here. I mean, this is an idea of what that timeline could be. And I hope that gives you some idea of what this could look like from a bank standpoint. Again, we are all feverishly working to get a very streamlined process out there. I'm sure Felipe and his counterparts, my counterparts over there at TD, are doing the same thing. We're trying to work on a portal for our clients as the guidance is coming out, which isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do, but we as an industry are trying to make it as streamlined for our customers and small business owners as we can. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll leave this up here for a moment, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
The only thing I would add is the SBA has released an easy process for those individuals who are self-employed and have no employees.
Right. And so let's address that one because that one's coming in. The questions come in Spanish, que a las personas que son empleados por su mismo y son el solo empleado que tienen, el empleador de ellos mismos, hay una forma que va a venir a través del SBA que va a ser específicamente para ellos. Y también hablamos de los rumores que existen sobre los $150,000 y menos que lo iban a perdonar, pero el señor fue muy claro diciendo que tendría que cambiar cómo está escrito la ley, para decirnos bien directo, para poder hacer eso, y en este momento eso no es el caso. All right, perfect. By the way, Victoria, thank you again for addressing a lot of questions. So, Joseph, you're off the hook for a few of them. I'm not sure what Lydia Desnoyes wanted on perfect timing for Congresswoman Shalala.
Yeah, I put her on the spot. That's probably what.
Oh, on the Congresswoman, yeah. But she knows you're from Georgia, so it's okay. She knows you're from Georgia, so it's okay.
So I was going to address one question that came in here. If someone asked if when we applied, we asked for 8 weeks, but we still have funds, do I need to notify my bank that we want to go 24 weeks? The answer is no. When you apply for forgiveness for your loan, you'll be able to check which box that you want for forgiveness, be it that 8-week period, the 24-week, or the alternative cover period that I mentioned earlier.
Perfect. And I know that I'm seeing that we're going down an industry in here around cruise lines. It's not a shocker, being that we support them here. They're asking about safe harbor and the employees, were they ever hired back? They can't hire them back. They don't have work for them to do. Will they be forgiven? Obviously, they should have paid them, which was a curtailment to unemployment.
Yeah, cruise lines were not eligible for PPP or any loans because they're not American companies. Their employees, when they were either furloughed or laid off, were eligible for unemployment.
Right. Yeah. And what they were asking about expanding on the sole practitioner loans that you mentioned, it's an easy process. I think some people need to stay tuned a little bit. And Congresswoman and Victoria, if not mistaken, the SBA is still in the process of finalizing some of the forgiveness processes that the banks will undertake. So there's some questions that are preempted, but it will be clearly outlined, similar to what Mr. Schufert has shared. Muchas de las procedimientos que se va a utilizar para perdonar los préstamos están todavía abajo el proceso del gobierno, y ya una vez que los bancos reciben más instrucciones, ya serían aplicados a través de su procedimiento y los bancos le avisarán. Yeah, and payroll is just taxes and salaries, but it can be anything that's a benefit-related item. Answered that one live. I don't work for Cruise Line, but our American company serves them, so to speak. Look, it's very sad for anybody. There are industries that are going to suffer tremendously here. Unfortunately, this is part of the pandemic. We'll keep doing what we can. And it's an interesting dynamic,
And the
Congresswoman. I know that it keeps you up at
have
night.
borrowed money. The Europeans, both the German central bank and the British central bank have opened up for the cruise lines, but they've been able to go into the market, probably paying high interest rates, but they have gone into the market. But because they don't pay American taxes, it's hard.
Right.
Money is restricted to American taxpayers by law, not.
Yeah. Well, it goes to your comment that you made earlier, that and the cruise ships have for for eons, forever, have always flown flags from other nations and are responsible. Their liabilities go to those nations, not to us. It just
We're
makes these
sensitive
huge
about their employees, their American-based employees, because we wanted to make sure. And the cruise lines feel awful. I mean, they're going to try to get back to work as fast as they can and rehire, thousands of employees from all over the world.
Yeah.
They have been good employers, and the subcontractors been, and we still have the cargo going on, so there are some jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's a question around, and I think it's more for an accountant, from Nick Alonso. Nick, I would refer you specifically to your CPA on that one. We don't answer questions on tax deductions here, and we'll stay tuned. Sorry on that one. But I do want to say that you guys have done a great job. We're at 2:59 right now, and I know that we wanted to go ahead and address a couple of other things. So what the one thing I think that's critical is that stay tuned, because there will be more and more outcomes regarding the forgiveness process, much to what Joseph has shared with us here, and the banks will undertake. Lily, real quick, will we be sharing, we've gotten the question, the recorded seminar? This one's critical for a lot of people, and I'm not sure, Joseph, if we're sharing our Synovus deck, or is that proprietary for you?
No, sir, that is fine if you would like to share it. I hope it's helpful.
Oh, no, it's definitely helpful, sir. You were very thorough. So that Synovus is lucky to have you. Let me know when you want to move into a TD location. We
include it in our website.
Ok, para todo el mundo que quería saber y estaban preguntando sobre programación hoy, esto está grabado y lo vamos a poder compartir a través del South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce website. En el internet, puedes verlo ahí. We will be sharing it, our recorded version, through our website. Next week, yes. It'll take a couple days. Lily just doesn't click a button and put it through. It's all good. We're processing as quickly as we can. Congresswoman, thank you so much. I hope your vote went well. It's been an honor to have you here. It's fantastic to see you again. It has been, like Lily said, a while, but
6 months.
To have you here. Wonderful.
Well, if I could tell people, they could also check my website. It's shalala.house.gov for more information. And I'm totally dependent on my colleagues here in the banks and the SBA and at the South Florida Chamber of Commerce, because everybody is trying to help our businesses, and we're just committed. And I'm not done yet with legislation. I'm not going to give up as long as there's one business that needs help in my community.
I know that. I know you feel that way. And it's funny because, I mean, even some other people have been texting me who are audience members, attendees on this call. I keep getting distracted. So thank you for all of you guys doing a great job on moderating yourselves. They're asking if they can go again and apply again for more help because they've ran out of money. And I think there's a lot of discussion, if not mistaken, underway on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it'll come out. And we're getting to some detailed questions. I think some of the ones that are still in our chat box or our Q&A box have been answered in a lot of ways, and they're getting some very specific in areas. So if you could take a quick look as I wrap up, but I'm going to turn it over to our sponsor and my dear friend, past chair of the South Florida Hispanic Chamber, Senor Armando Trabanco, to wrap us up, and then I'll make a couple closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Felipe. And once again, great job to Congresswoman Shalala. Thank you for being here. Victoria, as always. Univision, Angela. Dariel, great job. And to our fearless leader, Lily, thank you so much for putting this together. And Joseph, thank you for agreeing to come on and be our subject matter expert. You've done so much for our organization and for our community, so we definitely thank you. It's really a privilege and an honor for us to sponsor this very informative webinar. I think it's something that everybody has on their mind. Folks took the PPP loans without knowing how to clear it at the back end, and that's really what we're about. As an organization, we put out 18,000 PPP loans. But the most interesting part isn't the amount of the loans. It was really the demographics that we served. 84% of the loans that we put out were for companies with 25 employees or less. Those are really the backbone of all of our communities and really what make our economy grow and really what our organization is all about. So once again, as we move forward and as businesses, you know, people like to use the word pivot, and I think you guys know how I feel about the word pivot, because it's not about pivoting at this point. It's really reinventing and refocusing completely your businesses, because things are totally different. We want to make sure that everything we do is deliberate, from who we're hiring to the products that we're using to our employees to everything else. And so we want to make sure that you have an organization that you can turn to. Please feel free to go and use us as a resource at Synovus, because that's what we're all about. We're located in Dade County, but we're across the state, and actually we're in 5 states. We're in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina, and we're here for you. So thank you so much, Felipe. I'll turn it back over to you.
No, Armando, thank you very much. You know, it's funny you say that, Armando. Our average loan size was 105,000, which throughout our entire footprint, which is on the East Coast, and we were actually the #1 SBA lender on the East Coast, and we did 85,000 loans. It's been crazy, but it's been such a feeling of contribution. So, Congresswoman, on behalf of the bankers, to all of you, it's been a lot of work, but we have literally been interacting with these clients directly, and I cannot begin to share with you the amount of appreciation they've had, even for what's been given so far. So there's some questions coming through here. Armando, you're getting business out of here. Yes, Synovus does offer SBA loans for a lot of different things. You need to talk to them, but there are many options beyond SBA as well. But we can go through that. Ladies and gentlemen, our webinar is coming to a conclusion. Damas y caballeros, ya se acabó el webinar de hoy. Lo que le puedo decir es que en Facebook Live va a estar dispuesto hoy a las 4, me han avisado. Today at 4 p.m., we will actually be posting this onto Facebook Live. So you see, it's not going to take us a few days. We're going to actually be posting this a little bit later on Facebook Live. Thank you all very, very much. Have a wonderful weekend. And I know we have other webinars, but if not, July 4th is around the corner. Time for us to all celebrate this incredible country that we have the privilege of living in, and with all the freedoms that we are given. Donna Shaleda, thank you for your service as a Congresswoman in the United States Congress. Angela, Univision, muchas gracias por todo. Armando, you're a rock star. Joseph, it's been a pleasure, buddy. When you're really ready to relocate to a great state of Florida.
No, he's not going to think about that.
We don't pay state income. We don't pay state income tax. FYI. But it's all good. And Dariel, and for hosting us, we appreciate it tremendously. And Victoria, thank you. We can always count on you. Gracias. You're the best. Lillian Lopez,
yes,
always
sir.
a pleasure. Until our next one. Until the next
we have
one.
Wednesday, the Honorable Kathy Fernandez Rundle.
That's right. And that's actually going to be very intense, but important that people listen. That one's a really important topic.
Domestic violence.
Yes. Well, thank you all very, very much. Bye. Gracias. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.